We head into this holiday season this year with uncertainty hanging in the air as a global pandemic, a presidential election, and social turmoil have dominated our lives for the past year. We're learning how to hold on to traditions, even if we can't celebrate them in the same way, focusing on being together, apart. Thanksgiving is usually a time for people and communities to come together and celebrate, but COVID-19 restrictions are affecting the way families celebrate and have made large community gatherings inconceivable. Benji Jefford shows us how these gatherings are changing to keep the public safe.
COVID-19 cases are on the rise, and states have implemented measures to help slow the spread of the virus. This is what health experts suggest to stay safe during holiday gatherings.
Health experts are recommending that everyone should get a flu shot 2 weeks before visiting friends and family during the holidays. Jackson County Health Department COVID Section Chief Paula Clark says planning gatherings will take a little extra work this year.
I think when people are making their plans for the holidays, we need to keep quite a few things in mind. That right now in Jackson County, we're at our highest level ever of infection. And we want everybody to enjoy their family. We know there's a lot of exhaustion with the virus right now, but to enjoy their families, but keep a lot of things in mind to stay safe.
Before traveling, take a minute to examine your health before making any commitments.
That if people are having any kind of symptoms, that you stay home. And we hear so much that people just thought it was allergies. You know, it's really windy right now. There's a lot of stuff in the air and people are assuming it's allergies. We can't. At this time, during this pandemic, our brains go right to allergies. Our brains need to be thinking, this could be COVID and I don't want to infect other people, family members.
Clark says the Illinois Department of Public Health has safety tips designed to reduce the chances of transmitting the virus in small get-togethers.
I think that we need to think about travel, if you're traveling public or private transportation. If it can be private transportation, that's going to be safer. Always wear a mask, whether you're in a car with people and or if it's public transportation, to try to practice social distancing.
When you arrive at your destination, try not to expect the usual greeting.
We're used to greeting people with a hug, and we really need to, I know it's really hard to change that behavior, and we all are getting kind of exhausted with the pandemic, but it is more important now than ever to, greet people, from afar with a smile, with an elbow, have a mask on, and just try to distance. You just, even if somebody isn't sick, they could be positive and be asymptomatic and still be able to spread the virus.
COVID-19 can last on surfaces anywhere from a few hours to a few days, depending on the surface.
It's a good idea to put out, Clorox wipes, let's say in a bathroom, and maybe a roll of paper towels so that they can dry their hands with paper towels. Ask each person when they leave the restroom to use that Clorox wipe to wipe off the handles on the faucet, to wipe off the doorknob, all of those touch points that could be transferring, so that would be a great idea.
Other helpful tips are to gather outdoors if the weather is nice. If you're inside, open the windows to add ventilation.
We don't want anybody to have to postpone Thanksgiving. It's a very important holiday, but we do need people just to be really mindful of this as the infection is the highest it's been.
When it's time to eat, have one person handle the utensils or prepare everything in individual servings. For InFocus, I'm Benji Jeffords.
We're all aware of the fact that COVID-19 has changed the way we live in many ways, and amid the painful parts of the epidemic, many are coming together to help and to share in ways we might not have thought about before. Steph Whiteside reports in the way one organization is dealing with the changes to dining out and supporting those in need at the same time.
The COVID-19 pandemic has increased food insecurity and decreased revenue for restaurants. The Southern Illinois Collaborative Kitchen is tackling both problems with a low-contact pickup system and meals that are available regardless of ability to pay. Leah Maciel, owner of Chris Daughter's Bakery and one of the founders of the Collaborative Kitchen, talked with WSIU about the project.
I want to start with talking about Collaborative Kitchen. Tell me a little bit about how this concept came about.
So when the shelter in place order came through, the owners of Cristados, we got together and realized that it would probably be better to go ahead and temporarily close so we could redo our business model, because we wouldn't be able to basically sustain ourselves for just carry out orders only. And in the meantime, while we were doing that, we were, as a couple of people reached out to us about the Boys and Girls Club. And then that started to dawn on us that there's a lot of people with food insecurity down here, and why the schools were doing a great job of getting meals to the kids during the week. There wasn't really anything for the weekend. So we got together with William Lowe, who is the manager at New Kahala and also the creator of the Southern Illinois Eats page. And the 5 of us basically just came up with a plan to try to not only help people who needed food at this point in time, but also to help out restaurants that could have been struggling because of the shelter in place orders.
So yeah, so walk me through, for somebody who's watching this who maybe hasn't ordered, like how does ordering from Collaborative Kitchen work for your customers?
Okay, well, normally our menus are up by the latest on Wednesday morning, and you can, we have a Facebook page where it'll direct you where to order. It's on the Southern Illinois Eats page, their own website, and you can order through there. And it's a sliding scale, pay what you can. So you're able to order food if you need it. You're able to donate if you can. And then we try to have varying menus every week, and try to get some vegan and gluten-free options as well.
You partner with different restaurants. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works, each week with the Collaborative Kitchen?
So basically we reach out to people who would like to help. We try to pay them, a little over food costs so they can still make a profit on it. And we supply the to-go containers for them. And the restaurants that we've been working with have been fantastic so far. They've always been wanting to help. And that's Pat's Barbecue and One Hot Cookie and Walker's Bluff and Rise Above It and Deborah Kay's Catering at Assessor. And the people that I work with those are absolutely fantastic, and they didn't even hesitate to help out.
So what are some of the organizations you've worked with to help kind of feed the community, in addition to people who can, order from Collaborative Kitchen, even if they can't pay very much or at all?
Yeah, so far we're working with the Boys and Girls Club, and they are distributing meals on Wednesdays. And we also work with Addicts Community Services, and they distribute meals throughout neighborhoods on Saturdays. We work with Women for Change, who distribute meals as well as neighborhoods. And we also supply meals on the weekends for the Carbondale Warming Center.
So do you know, how many meals can you estimate that you've provided?
It varies, I think around 250 to about 350 a week.
Have you heard from the restaurants you've worked with, is this helpful for them as well? Because we talk about individuals struggling, but businesses are hurting too.
When we talk to them, basically we just try to give them a fair price so they can still make a little bit of money. A lot of the restaurants that we're working with are also catering businesses as well, and they took a huge hit when the pandemic started, because most of us cater for SIU, and when it closed, that was an awful lot of revenue that everybody lost.
Do you see Southern Illinois Collaborative Kitchen being something that may continue beyond the COVID-19 pandemic?
We definitely, now that we were always aware of food insecurity in our area, but now that we're going to be a not-for-profit business, we plan on continuing this even after the pandemic.
In Focus in Carbondale, I'm Steph Whiteside.
This can be a glorious time of year if you have a comfortable home and a close family, or it can be the most difficult time of year if you're homeless and alone. The holidays and cold weather usually arrive about the same time, and it's a time when social services are needed desperately. Mark McDonald is in Springfield, where the Salvation Army prepares for a difficult winter.
Food and shelter, it's certainly can't live without those things, especially this time of year when the seasons change, winter starts to set in. The Salvation Army for decades and decades and decades has been protecting the people that are less fortunate from shelter and food and starvation. They're still doing it. And we're in the Springfield Salvation Army office here where the food pantry is. And Captain Jeff, this time of year, I guess I'm right, that you see a lot more people coming into the food pantry when the weather starts to close in. Is that a good assessment?
Sure, it's pretty constant throughout the year. This year has been absolutely crazy because of COVID and food insecurity and things like that. So this year is totally different than what we've seen in the past.
Let's take a walk through the food pantry here. The lady that helped me in here said we're pretty empty right now. So the demand's been high.
Oh, it's been very high, and it went back from when the first shelter-at-home order went down. When it was hard to find groceries in the store, it was hard to find food in here, and we did everything we could to keep up with it. We started just handing out boxes. This is typically a choice pantry, so that when somebody comes in, instead of us just assuming they're going to eat what we give them, they typically get to pick from. But yeah, you'll see right now that there's not a lot to pick from. So we're kind of back to giving boxes. We work with the Central Illinois Food Bank, and they've been real good about getting us stuff. A lot of times that's bulk, and so we get all corn, or we get all, and so that's why we've been making the bags again, and because there's not a lot to choose from, so we're back to handing them out.
So you actually pre-select food and put it in a bag, and that's kind of what a family would need for a day or two.
Right, yeah. And that's not the typical function, but that's how we're doing it right now because we don't have a lot to pick from.
Yeah. So the Central Illinois Food Bank helps you stay full here.
Yes.
Now, what about, though? I mean, charitable donations. I mean, that's really what you live on, isn't it? The public's donations.
Yeah.
What's that been like during this virus?
Again, that's something that's been interesting. Like right in the very beginning, there was some people that really jumped on board and helped us out, especially when the stimulus checks came out. There were several people that signed over their stimulus checks to us. We live in a very caring community, and they're worried about their neighbors. They understand that it's hard to find food and shelter sometimes. Since then, it's been pretty normal. It's going to be interesting because this is the start of our fundraising season right now. And this is the most important time of the year as far as funding goes for us. The Christmas kettles, we usually bring in about $200,000. I don't see that happening this year. There's a lot less traffic in the stores. There's stores that we can't do it at. Even where we can do it, we got to be more careful, and I think people might be reluctant. So we are doing a lot more online this year, and we're doing virtual kettles and things like that. So I'm really hoping that those can make up the difference for what COVID has taken from the physical.
We will still see bell ringers in the communities, right?
Yeah, you will, and they're taking extra precautions. They have to wear masks, they have to wear gloves, they have to wipe off the kettles.
Oh, man. But when retail traffic is down, that's really bad for the Red Kettle campaign, because you need traffic.
Well, and as a society, we've gotten more to the online shopping. And so I see a lot of less traffic in the stores, and people, especially we're getting into a season of lockdown. It looks like again, of some kind. The restaurants are shutting down, and so people are going to be reluctant to stop and interact.
Yeah, I mentioned shelter earlier, and I ran into you at a good time because you're opening your new shelter very soon, and we get a chance to take a look at it. We're not going to disturb anybody's privacy, and we can go in and take a look at that shelter and how it's going to operate. So. Could we go that way now?
Yeah, we can, for sure.
Okay, Captain, this is where Thanksgiving dinner happens in the new shelter. Actually, this building's been used before by the Salvation Army, and now it's empty again, and this is going to be a really good location for, particularly in the wintertime, and you've got this through March, where you can get people out of the weather and give them a comfortable place to eat and live, sleep.
Right, and particularly good for our current situation with COVID-19. This gives us the area that we need to separate people and keep them safe. Keep it when and if the virus comes in, we can isolate it to rooms so that it doesn't spread throughout the whole population is the plan.
Okay, so somebody comes in and they haven't tested yet, but they have symptoms. You would separate those folks, and then after they get tested, and if they test positive, you will have accommodations for them.
Correct.
Do you have any idea how many people you could accommodate who had COVID?
Well, if we actually have COVID, if it's a whole outbreak and everybody gets it, we have a lot of space here that we can separate people. We have a couple big open rooms, and one of them we're installing showers in right now and everything for that purpose. So it's pretty flexible. This area is flexible. That's why I'm really excited about this building. It gives us that opportunity to be as safe as we possibly can in the climate that we live in right now.
Mm-hmm. This will not be the area where they sleep, though.
No.
Can we go take a look at that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's upstairs here.
Terrific. Well, Captain, there are a lot of rooms up here, and I noticed that there's a place where you can separate this hallway. Would that be where the women's shelter?
Yep, that's the plan. This door is new. It just got put in so that we can separate men and women at night. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any idea how many women that could accommodate?
We're right about 30, I think, down there. Mm-hmm. And again, it's a pretty flexible area. They're pretty big rooms. They were made for 4 beds per room. We've taken 2 out, or not 4 beds, 8 beds. We've taken 2 out so that there's 6 now, just to maintain more distance. But yeah.
Well, let's walk down this way because I guess most of your clients are men.
The majority are men, yes.
And so you need more space. More space for them. Restrooms, of course, plenty of restroom space.
Yeah, restrooms and showers all over. Yeah, these are one of the rooms here. If you want to take a look at it.
Okay, so this is the way it'll be set up: six men per room,
with a 6-foot space between. Yeah.
Do most of your clients stay one night, or are they here for a while?
There's a good portion that stay for a while, but we really want to push this year, getting people into programs. You know, we don't want this just to be a home. We want this to be a stop in a greater, journey to where they get the help that they need and get in a permanent housing, be supported by a caseworker, that kind of thing.
The help they might need would, if they're using, to get them away from using.
Right.
And if they're not working, to get them some skills and get them in the mood to want to work and get them the skills to work.
Right. And that's what's really exciting about this is we have something called the Continuum of Care, which is it's a group made up of many, if not most, of the local agencies that do things, provide services like that. And they're all going to be coming in here daily, working with people. They'll have a space. There's a clinic downstairs. There's offices where they can meet with the people. They can start their services. They can get into what we call coordinated entry so that they're on the list to get into housing and things like that. So yeah, we really want this to be part of a process instead of just a place to land.
Very interesting too that you've already made the provisions to have people who may get sick with the virus. They don't have to be turned away. You have someplace to care for them. That's very interesting.
Yes, and actually we're working with WSIU Medicine and the county health department, and they've actually been able to secure some rapid tests for us, so we'll be able to even be safer in that way.
Well, Captain, thank you so much. This has been very interesting, and in fact, by the time this program airs, this shelter will be full
there'll be people
of people.
Sleeping.
Yeah, there'll be people sleeping here and using your facility, and hopefully learning some things, some life skills that'll help them out. So that's food and shelter during this holiday period. In Focus in Springfield, I'm Mark McDonald.
The Illinois State Museum has always been a treasured place for gathering for families. Through the pandemic, those traditions had to change. Now the museum is open and even offering brand new exhibits and experiences you've never seen before. Walking through the Illinois State Museum, you'll see some of the most abundant history Illinois has to offer. You'll see the oldest thing in Illinois, one of the largest things in Illinois. But if you want to see some of the most beautiful pieces of Illinois history, head up to this special display on the second floor called Fashioning Illinois, 1820 to 1900.
It's a great representation of this time when women's roles are expanding.
This exhibit shows how fashion reflects the role of women in the first 80 years of Illinois statehood. Men were the decision makers and the storytellers, and women were often found in the background.
The 1880s is a time in women's history when women are really expanding their role in society. They're more likely to receive education, to go to work in the workforce, to advocate for social causes.
These garments are personal stories from each woman who wore or made them.
I think we're engaging in different ways. It's interesting because Zoom or whatever platform you use sometimes feels really detached, but when we do our programming around these topics, it feels even more intimate, and I think that's what people are responding to.
This dress was worn by Piercy Carpenter Grout of Scott County. It was specially chosen by Illinois' First Lady M.K. Pritzker for its vibrant colors and detail.
We're used to looking at black and white 19th century pictures, and it kind of gives this false impression that the past was like dull, you know, so it's cool to see the actual clothes and see like how rich the colors really are in real life.
Mary Lincoln's sister, Frances Todd Wallace, wore this dress, a trendsetter for its vivid purple.
We took it out to the Lincoln home and photographed it on the front step because chances are Frances Todd Wallace would have worn that to visit her sister Mary. And it's very characteristic of that time period because of this color purple, which was a new discovery. But it was this huge fashion craze. They'd never been able to get purples in varying colors that were color fast and really vibrant. And so from the late 1850s on, you see a lot of like purple showing up in women's clothes.
Susan Watson made this dress from start to finish around 1860. She spun, dyed, and wove the wool to create this striped fabric. Then she sewed the dress by hand.
I think one of the strengths of the exhibit is it's not just looking at pretty clothing, although we've got a lot of that here to look at, but we kind of want to put into context what it was like to live with clothing.
Original pieces from African American women are rare to find, but you'll see this replica of a dress worn by Lucy McWhirter, wife of Free Frank McWhirter. Once enslaved, she became the matriarch of New Philadelphia, an integrated community in Pike County. This dress, featured at Lincoln's New Salem, was worn in the 1830s, made of cotton, most likely harvested by enslaved workers in the South, purchased to weave in New England, and the fabric purchased by an Illinois consumer. And any woman in that era who needed maternity clothing had to make do with what she had. Ida Jane Pearman Stevens likely wore this two-piece walking dress through 3 pregnancies until she died in childbirth.
Typically, when a woman got pregnant, she took her existing clothing and, expanded the waist or let out a seam and adjusted it to fit her pregnancy. And then when she was done bearing children, then she'd take it in again and it would become a regular dress again. Or maybe she'd take the fabric and she'd cut it up and make kids' clothes out of it. So it's actually fairly rare that maternity clothing survives because most of it was repurposed after the pregnancy was done.
This intimate glimpse into the life of Illinoisans continues through the pandemic in other projects. It's been an effective way to keep in touch with people across the state.
One of the things that was exciting as we transitioned to a work from home situation with state government, this museum was positioned to keep doing the good work, and that manifests as our collecting initiative for COVID-19 stories.
Another new exhibit has these intimate pieces of history, stories from all over Illinois of people during the pandemic. You can see more of them on their website at illinoisstatemuseum.org. For InFocus, I'm Julie Staley. The Fashioning Illinois 1820 to 1900 exhibit will be featured until May. They have monthly programs on their YouTube channel. The Journal of a Plague Year exhibit will be featured until December, but the stories of Illinoisans during the pandemic will be available on their website through Illinois Archives. Admission to the museum is free. Numerous organizations come together each winter to make sure those in need have what they need, including the Salvation Army. Jennifer Fuller has more on ways you can help.
COVID-19 is pushing up the demand for food, shelter, and other assistance. Donations are being accepted at food banks and pantries like the Central Illinois Food Bank, Good Samaritan Ministries in Carbondale, and other local pantries across the state. Toys for Tots collects new toys for children in need. You can get more information at toysfortots.org. The Goodwill and Salvation Army also take donations to provide for those in need. And warming centers like the one in Carbondale and shelters like the Lighthouse Shelter in Marion and Helping Hands of Springfield also provide help as temperatures dip. In Focus, I'm Jennifer Fuller.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of In Focus. I'm Julie Staley. We wish you a happy Thanksgiving and a peaceful holiday season.
We can find wisdom and poetry all around us. All we have to do is listen. This Thanksgiving, StoryCorps invites you to honor and celebrate the stories of an entire generation of Americans. Together, we can create the largest collection of voices ever gathered in human history and preserve it at the Library of Congress forever. With StoryCorps' new app, you can record a meaningful interview with a grandparent or another elder. Ask simple questions like, what are you most grateful for? How do you want to be remembered? Then, listen. Truly listening to someone reminds them that their lives matter and reminds us all of what matters most. We're calling this effort the Great Thanksgiving Listen. Help us make history. Download the app, spread the word.